So if you ask a question, make sure it's appropriate. I guess that would be the other thing I would say. All right. So first, I want to thank everyone for coming in today. I know that we're busy, and 2 hours is a large time slot, especially for this type of presentation. But I think that what I'm going to talk about today is very exciting, and you'll find it exciting as well. And it represents a very good opportunity. And I truly believe that you'll be on the ground floor of something that's going to really change the way dentists practice and help their patients, and you'll be able to be an integral part of that, and maybe even make some money along the way. So that's why I'm excited about what I'm talking about today. I'm gonna spend some amount of time going into a little bit of detail. I'll try to make it exciting and interesting, and I think I will say without question what makes these types of exchanges most effective is if there's an interaction. So if you have a question, I guarantee someone else has the same question, so go ahead and ask and say, hey, hold on, Jeff, you said something that I didn't catch or what have you. And or if you have a comment or a concern, by all means, just chime in, and we'll, I'll appreciate the interaction, and I'm sure others in the presentation will as well. So DDME has been in business for about 6 years now, and we've been learning about what dentists need and what some of their issues are related to sleep apnea and bruxism. And so in that period of time, we've come up with some ideas that we believe are going to be, a couple of years from now, they're going to say, well, geez, how did we deal with this without the tools that I'm going to talk to you about today? So without question, this is not really my opinion. I think that if you were to ask 10 people what the top issue in dentistry today, 9.9 of them would say sleep apnea. So the top issue in dentistry today is OSA, obstructive sleep apnea. And the what if question there is, what if that hottest topic was directly related to the most common problem that all dentists face every day and have faced since the beginning of dentistry? And what if we knew that those two were related, and we've come up with a set of tools and a treatment that addresses both issues? And that's what I get excited about, because sleep apnea in dentistry is a hot topic, but there's not a very high adoption rate. There's a number of issues why that is. I'm not going to get into all the issues, but we are going to have some conversation about that. And then bruxism, every dentist deals with it. They may choose to ignore it, but they look at it every day. And a large percentage of their patients suffer from bruxism. Crowns, bridges, dentures, mobile teeth, all that has its roots in some type of bruxism issue in many, many patients. So having said that, I'm going to take some time and talk about the two components: the airway, sleep apnea, and bruxism. And it's important that as a salesperson, you're going to be talking to dentists, that you have some basic understanding of both issues. You don't have to be an expert at it by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to have an initial intelligent conversation with your customer to be successful. So the next portion of this presentation is designed and intended to help you get comfortable about talking about sleep apnea at a very basic level, and also talk about bruxism at a very basic level, so you can do a good job of describing the product, okay? So OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, let's talk about that. By definition, sleep apnea is a reduction or cessation of breathing while you're asleep, okay? So when you're sitting there breathing, and many of us have heard people, and there's a pause in the breathing. So you'll hear somebody breathe loudly, or they may even snore a little bit, and then they stop, and there's just nothing for 5, 10, 15 seconds, and then there's a big gasp. That pause in breathing is an apnea, okay? And there's various kind of types of apnea. there's obstructive apnea, there's hypopneas, and so on and so forth. But for the purpose of this conversation, just know that that's an apnea. Now, another even more common condition that we're all aware of is snoring. Now, sleep apnea is a diagnosable medical condition. Snoring has health consequences, but is not a diagnosable medical condition. The medical community does not recognize snoring as a disease. So you just don't get diagnosed with snoring. But it's a nuisance, it's common, and the way I think of snoring and sleep apnea is if you have an airway and the airway is slightly compromised, the soft tissue in your airway starts to vibrate, and that's the noise of snoring, okay? So if you look at the first bullet, and it's a reduction of flow, so you think of it, okay, snoring's a little bit of resistance, a little bit of reduction, hypopnea is a little more reduction in flow, and then sleep apnea is where the airway closes. So think of it as kind of a spectrum, and snoring's on one end and obstructive sleep apnea is on the other end, okay? So that's how snoring and apnea are related to each other. OSA occurs in millions of adults. It's a vastly underdiagnosed issue. The primary reason, does anybody know why sleep apnea is so underdiagnosed? Does anybody take a guess at that or thought about it at all? It'll surprise you. There's two main reasons, but one of them will surprise you, I believe, and that is when you're when you're having sleep apnea, you're asleep. So you're essentially unaware that you have the condition. So if you're unaware that you're doing something that's bad for you, is it a problem to you? Okay, probably not. It's not until that problem that you have that you're unaware of starts having consequences that you are aware of. So for all those folks that go to sleep labs, they don't go to the doctor and say, geez, I have pauses in my breathing, can you help me? They usually say, I'm tired during the day, I'm listless, I'm irritable, or what, they always go for the symptom of it. So the reason it's so undiagnosed is because people don't know they have the problem. It's really important that you understand that, because it's going to relate to why dentists are in such a better position to deal with this issue than physicians, okay? So just remember, most people aren't aware that they have sleep apnea. A lot more people are aware they're snoring because their bed partner knows that they snore, and they're very happy to let them know that they snore, okay? But sleep apnea in of itself, the main reason it's underdiagnosed is people just don't know they have it, okay? And so just remember that when we talk about dentists in bed. I already mentioned that OSA is a medical condition, and it does require a physician to diagnose the disorder. And that, for the folks in dentistry, that represents a task that's not as simple as it should be. So when we're talking about diagnosing sleep apnea and you're in front of a dentist, the dentist is not allowed to diagnose sleep apnea. And one of the services the DDME provides to dentists is that service, okay? We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But the most important thing on that fourth bullet is to know is that dentists cannot diagnose sleep apnea, all right? And then the last bullet I kind of talked about just a second ago, there's a number of health consequences associated with sleep apnea, and that's what brings people to the table. Is, again, it's not that they say, oh geez, I have these pauses in breathing, I don't like that I pause when I breathe when I'm asleep, so I'm going to do something about it. They say, geez, I'm tired, I have uncontrolled blood pressure, I'm overweight. There's a number of other things that initiate treatment rather than the actual condition itself. Okay, so let's talk about treatment. So actually, before I get into treatment of sleep apnea, I'm going to take a pause here. Does anybody have any questions? And if you have one, you can either type it in as a chat or just talk, because it looks like there's 7 of us, so I haven't muted anybody if you have a question, okay? Okay, so with sleep apnea treatment, the most common treatment for sleep apnea is positive airway pressure, or continuous positive airway pressure. and it's delivered with a mask that goes over the nose. You know, there's a variety of types of masks, but there's something that goes on your face that supports the airway once you go to sleep with a column of pressure. Okay, so there's a mask, there's a tube, and that tube is connected to a device that increases the pressure to your airway. And the reason for that pressure is, if you think about what sleep apnea is, it's resistance in the airway, it's a cessation of flow, or the airway closes altogether. It's one of the three of those, or maybe all three of them. And if you introduce a pressure or a column of air that essentially inflates the airway, that's what CPAP does. It inflates the airway. So when you breathe in and out, there's never a point in time where the airway is compromised and has resistance or closes. Okay. The good news about CPAP, it is very, very effective. In fact, in most cases, when you get a CPAP study, what they do at the sleep lab is they'll attach all the sensors to you, they'll monitor your sleep, and then they'll put a mask on you, a CPAP mask with a machine, and they'll start at a very low pressure, and you'll probably have some residual apneas, and there's a little knob there, and they'll just turn that knob, and that knob is increasing the airway pressure until you're breathing normally. So it's a fairly simple thing to do. I mean, it's you have a knob, you turn it, you look at the little picture of the airway, and if the airway is nice and symmetrical, then everything's good. So it's actually a fairly simple thing to manage. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's CPAP, and it's a mask on your face, and it's a column of air, and the thought of it is probably about what it is. It's difficult to get used to. And for those of us that are tired or listless or irritable or have all the consequences from sleep apnea, the concept of CPAP is unthinkable. So there's no way I could ever do that. Now, on the other hand, if you haven't had a good night's sleep in 15 years and you go to a sleep lab and somebody puts a CPAP mask on you and you have a brilliant sleep for the first time in 15 years, now CPAP is suddenly the most important thing in your life. And a lot of people respond that way. The problem is not enough people respond that way, and the compliance on CPAP is about 50 or 60%. Okay? So of all those people on CPAP, half those machines are sitting in somewhere and not being used. Half. Okay? So why do we care about that? Let's look at the next therapy, bullet 3 on their OSA treatment, oral appliance therapy. That's what the dentist delivers. Mandibular advancement is an oral appliance. It's two arches, two material, acrylic pieces of material that kind of go over your teeth, and they support your lower jaw in a position that, instead of pressure relieving the apnea, it pulls the mandible forward and it expands the column of air. Okay, and that's what oral appliance therapy does. It's mandibular advancement, and your airway just grows in its inside dimension is essentially what oral appliance does. Oral appliances are delivered by dentists, and that's why we care about that. And that's what's one of the things that's going to tie all this together with relation to the functioning of the airway and bruxism. Okay. Oral appliance therapy is a dental solution to a medical problem, and we'll talk about what dentists have to achieve in order to be able to do that. But know that it's important to know. So when you're talking to your dentist, you need to know that dentist may say, I'd love to be able to do oral appliances, but I just can't, and then they'll give you some reason. Okay. So there's a lot of those reasons why they don't get into this. And you need to understand those reasons, because we at DDME have figured out how to manage this from 100% dental perspective. Okay? But you have to understand your customer's problem. And so the problem is the dentists, when they think about treating sleep apnea, they say, oh, I have to do this and this and this. And they say, I don't want to do that. And what we've come up with DDME is, you can still manage a person's airway, treat bruxism, but you don't have to do those things you have to do to treat sleep apnea. okay? And so with you being a good sales rep, you have to understand what the headwinds of your customer are. And the primary source of headwinds are sleep apnea is a medical condition being treated by a dentist, okay? And then the last bullet here on treatment, I want to spend just a second on this because you need to understand what I'm going to tell you, because the magnitude of the opportunity is related to this last bullet, okay? So CPAP, giving patients CPAP for sleep apnea represents about a $2 billion a year industry. When you talk about the masks, the tubes, the machines, that $2 billion a year in that equipment gets dispersed to patients. Now, let's talk about the dentist participation in treating sleep apnea with their oral appliances. We're talking $30 or $40 million for dentists. Okay, 2 billion, 34 or 40 million. Okay, so that's one. So you think, okay, wow, that's a big gradient, and we're going to talk about how we can even that up a little bit. But the other part of the equation here is if you were to ask patients, you would say, you would describe CPAP to them. Say it's a mask that goes over your nose, connected to a tube that's attached to a machine that delivers pressure that alleviates the apnea. That's CPAP. Or your dentist can fit you with an oral appliance that you wear at night and it advances your jaw a couple of millimeters. You ask that to 10 people, 9 of them aren't going to say, I'll take an oral appliance. Okay? So patients would prefer to go to a dentist 9 out of 10 times. Okay, so that represents an opportunity. There's somebody needs to figure out that, and we hope that we're the ones that are going to figure that out. Okay, all right. So that's sleep apnea, and that's a description of the disorder, and that's a description of the basic treatments. There's other treatments, but they're kind of esoteric and they're not terribly. There's surgery and some of these other things. We're not going to get into that too much because it really doesn't affect what we do or what we're selling, okay? So now let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about bruxism. Okay, so bruxism, let's just have a basic description of it. Bruxism is clenching or grinding teeth, and there's daytime bruxism and there's nighttime bruxism. From here on out, when I talk about bruxism, I'm talking about nocturnal bruxism, okay? But know that there is a type of daytime bruxism that occurs in dentistry. When they can, it's pretty easy to figure out if somebody's bruxing during the day or night. And if you're bruxing during the day, it's a lot of behavioral modification, relaxation techniques, and things of this nature. Completely different from nighttime bruxism. Nighttime bruxism is a completely different animal. And in fact, someday in my career, I hope to have a different name for nighttime bruxism than daytime bruxism, because they're in no way, shape, or form related other than the fact that they cause damage to teeth. But the disorders are completely different. So nighttime bruxism has some unique components, one of which is that when you clench your teeth during the day, so if I were to say, okay, I want everybody to clench as hard as they can right now, there's some amount of strength that you would be comfortable exerting before you quit exerting. Okay, so you would sense that, okay, this is starting to hurt, I'm going to lighten up. That mechanism is suspended while you're asleep. And the reason that that's so important is because the masseter muscle, the cheek muscle that it's the muscle that you use to grind your teeth. That is not only is that a strong muscle, but its function in the temporal mandibular joint. It's a lever, so it's a strong muscle, and it can exert a tremendous amount of pressure on small areas of enamel on your teeth, okay? So we have a kind of I don't want to say perfect storm, but there's a scenario here. The purpose of you being able to do that is so you can chew food. and chew food that's hard, and you can chew your food and break it into smaller pieces. That's why we have this mechanism. The downside is when there's a maladaptation to it, like bruxism, that same feature that allows you to bite into things that are and cause a tremendous amount of damage is going on at night, and it can destroy your teeth because your teeth are now rubbing against each other instead of eating a steak or something. Okay, so when your enamel rubs against each other with this mechanism, with a strong muscle on a lever, it can exert a tremendous amount of force and cause tremendous damage. And this is how people ruin their teeth, ruin their crowns, ruin their bridges, ruin their false teeth, and ruin their restorations and ruin their implants. There's a path, and this is why it is because of this muscle. Okay, so we have this issue with bruxism. And when Bill and I first started looking into this, most people said it's a hopeless case. We just march people down the path of destruction, and as more and more damage occurs, we just deal with the damage and follow them until they don't have teeth anymore. That's basically the strategy. And so when we first got into this, we decided, well, wait a minute, that seems, that's like a cardiologist saying, well, when you have a heart attack, come see me. That's not how we tackle heart problems, but that's kind of how they tackle bruxism. So what we decided to do is create a method in which you could measure bruxism before the damage occurred and see where a patient lies on this bruxism path. So we have this monitor, and then we added to the monitor this capability and the monitor measures the airway, measures snoring, it measures hypopneas, and it measures apneas, measures OSA, and then we added to that the ability to measure bruxism. So and we measure everything on the same timeline. And sure enough, we're going to talk about it in a bit, we kind of revealed something that I've always thought is going to completely change dentistry. And we'll talk about that here in a couple of slides. But know that this bruxism problem, I told you the path. You can, oh, look, you got a few chips, a little damage in your teeth. Oh, how funny. Let me give you a little guard. Maybe that'll work. They don't wear the guard. A couple years later, oh, geez, we got to do a crown. 6 months later after the crown, we're replacing the crown. And then the dentist says 6 months after that, you know what, let's just pull the tooth and put in a bridge. A year after that, 2 years, 3 years after that, geez, the bridge comes back in a baggie with the patient. And the patient says, what am I supposed to do with these? And they hands the bridge back to the dentist. And the dentist says, oh, geez, well, we can do a restoration, or we can give you some dentures. What do you want to do? That's the path. So let's talk about the treatment. Okay, so I already kind of mentioned one, you give them a guard, and the sole purpose of the guard is to protect the enamel. Okay, so we're not dealing with the issue. We're just trying to manage the damage. That's all that a guard does. There's a thing called an occlusal splint, and that's designed to align teeth and protect the enamel. But the occlusal splint, they're falling out of favor, and the reason is because it was thought that bruxism was caused by your teeth not being lined up properly. So if you lined up your teeth properly, bruxism would go away. Well, after 50 years of putting in occlusal splints and they didn't work, we're starting to learn that maybe occlusal splints aren't the solution. Okay, they do a good job of protecting the teeth, but teeth alignment is not the primary problem of bruxism. Okay, so then what we have to do is find out what else could be the problem, because that's it, folks. Bruxism guard or an occlusal splint. And if you think about it from the medical perspective, like what Bill and I typically do, that's a fairly weak strategy. And, again, the strategy is weak because they weren't measuring it and they really didn't know what was causing problems. And in fact, I watched a YouTube video yesterday, and the dentist said, bruxism is a hopeless condition. There's nothing you can do about it, so here's the best thing to do. They said that. And it was a brand new video. And you're going to see here in a minute that is absolutely not true. And what makes this opportunity so exciting is when you think about the number of dentists that are putting in crowns, bridges, restorations, and all the warranty work and all that grief associated with tooth destruction, we have a way to identify a certain number of those patients, triage them, and then eliminate the problem and take them off this path. Okay, and they can keep their teeth for the rest of their life. You know, maybe not every single patient, but a big portion of them. Okay, so that's where this becomes very exciting. Okay, so now we're going to link the two topics. We're going to link airway, sleep apnea, snoring, and so on and so forth, and bruxism. And we're going to talk about for a second how they're related. Okay, sleep apnea. You know, I've worked in sleep labs. I'm working in sleep labs now. I always kept my toe in the door of a sleep lab. It's just, I don't know why. And every sleep study that's ever been done in every sleep lab could measure bruxism, and they don't. Can anybody, I'll give somebody $1 if they can figure out why it is that the medical community ignores bruxism. Because I kind of gave you a clue earlier. It's kind of a tricky question, but the reason is bruxism is a dental issue. Okay? So doctors can't even necessarily deal with medical issues, let alone taking over somebody else's problem. So you will never ever hear of a physician intruding into dentistry and taking on bruxism. You will never ever hear about that. What you will hear about from your customers, dentists, is that what some dentists will say to you, if you approach them with this, they'll say, oh, I'm not allowed to treat sleep apnea. It's a medical condition. You're going to hear that. And we're going to talk about how to deal with that statement in a minute. But the point is, in order for a dentist to do a good job managing bruxism, they do have to take into account how the airway functions. If you don't do that, you have one hand tied behind your back on dealing with bruxism, honestly. And so we're going to spend some time talking about the relationship between the two. All right. When I talk about the functioning of the airway, I'm talking about snoring. I'm talking about the hypopneas, you know, the apneas. There's all kinds of levels of resistance. So the airway is not open or closed. It's on varying degrees of functioning. And on those varying degrees of functioning, at any point in time, that airway dysfunction, whether it's a snore, a snort, a gasp, an apnea, a little bit of resistance, whatever it might be, any one of those can trigger a clench or a grind. Okay? Any one of them. So from now on, rather than talk about obstructive sleep apnea, I'm going to say functioning of the airway. All right? And that just makes it simpler rather than kind of try to encapsulate everything every time. So you're looking at a picture. The bottom half of the screen is a it's an airway. It's part of the airway. We're measuring the airway. The blue boxes are airway events. So if you see, there's 5 blue rectangles at the bottom of that image, and those blue boxes are representing the airway not functioning properly. Okay? Now, just above it is a thick black line that's going horizontally, and then there's a bunch of vertical ticks along that line. That's the masseter muscle. Okay? So then what we got to do is we have to decide what is the relationship here. All right. So we have this is the airway, and this is the bruxism. Airway, bruxism. Okay? So we don't really have to get much more into this. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that the airway, there's kind of a pattern here. All right? You guys see this pattern? All right. So without question, they're related. All right, so I'm going to move on now, and hopefully you understand that this is the problem. and I'm going to shift gears, and let me clear that off. So now we're going to talk about what are we going to do for our customers. We're going to help them, the dentist, decide, okay, what am I actually dealing with? Am I dealing with bruxism, or am I dealing with an airway issue? Or am I dealing with both? And we're going to talk about how we're going to help them do a better job, okay? At this point, just the purpose of this slide is I'm going to take a pause here because we're going to shift gears. Does anybody have any questions or about what we've talked about so far? I take that as a no. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, okay, so that's great. We've spent some time talking about the problem. So what are we going to do about it? So DDME's come up with a wellness monitor, or two wellness monitors. We believe that these monitors are going to offer our customers a very easy, simple, low-cost way to triage these patients. It's going to help them solve a major, if not the biggest problem that their practice has. And in doing so, we're going to explain to them how they can make money and save time. Okay, so this product, we believe, will address all those. And when you're talking about marketing concepts, those are some pretty good things to talk about. So the first product is the GEM. And the GEM is an oximeter, and it collects heart rate, and it collects blood oxygen level. And why do we care about those two? Those two are directly related to the functioning of the airway. That is, you breathe for a reason. And there's two big organs that are associated with getting oxygen to your tissue, and that's your heart and your lungs. And an oximeter that measures heart rate and blood oxygen level measures how those two things are functioning. Okay, so what we have on the GEM is a very basic tool that allows you to measure on a very basic level how you're breathing at night. Okay, is your heart going up and down in the heart rate, and is your blood oxygen level dipping down and coming back up? If it is, we'll know about it, and there'll be some reports that we'll talk about in a second that give the dentist information that will say, yes, this patient very likely is at risk for an airway issue or not. Okay.
Hey, Jeff, can I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Yeah.
This is John Barlow. Does the GEM, is that an acronym for something, or is it just that's what we call it?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story of the naming convention. As a project, we called this project the GEM, what was it? GEM 10. And, or no, it was GEM 20. I'm sorry, GEM 20. And it was EMG 02, and it was just an acronym. And EMG is the masseter muscle. That's the type of measurement that we use to measure the masseter muscle, and obviously O2 is the oxygen level in that. So when we decided to go from project name to the actual name of the product, people just like GEM. It would just seem to be a clever name, and so that's how we got the name GEM. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. So on the GEM, when you sell a GEM, you're selling an oximeter that's Bluetooth that transmits the data to the tablet. The tablet collects the data, processes it, and then sends it up to the cloud. The cloud which stores the data for the dentist, and it does all this automatically. So the patient goes home with an oximeter and a tablet, and the device is set up for them. They go to bed. They put on the oximeter like a watch. They set the tablet next to their bed and go to bed. All night, the oximeter is transmitting to the tablet. In the morning, the tablet processes the data, and the data then gets processed to the tablet. There's a short-term preliminary report, and then the data is also uploaded to the cloud, and that cloud data is further analyzed in a much more detailed fashion, and we can give advice from that. So that's how the GEM works. Oximeter, tablet to us, and then, or to the dentist, and then the dentist can process it in a detailed fashion. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Here is the preliminary report from the GEM. It's SpO2 is just oxygen level. Okay, so here's the two main graphs. There's the SpO2 graph at the top, and the max SpO2 was 99%, and the minimum it says here is 62, but that's artifact, and you can clearly see in that one line in the middle that's an artifact. Okay, so if you look at this graph, there's nothing that goes really below 90. Okay, so this is essentially a normal study. The heart rate stays pretty much in the middle. When you have somebody that has sleep apnea, these graphs are all over the place. Okay, so that's a report from the tablet in the morning, and it's kind of cool because the patient actually has the ability to look at this in the morning before they take the device back to the office. Okay, all right, so that's the GEM. The detailed analysis, so remember I said that the data gets uploaded to the cloud where it can be further processed. Here's the further processing. So we're providing more detailed information about what happened on the study rather than just the average heart rate, the average oxygen level, and a graph. We're breaking things down where if there is some oxygen dips, there's a calculation that we talk about called ODI, and we'll talk about that in a second. That's oxygen desaturation index. It's the number of times you dip in oxygen level per hour. We give you that index. We give you a much more sensitive index called OVI, which is a little more sensitive measure of those dips. We tell you how much time below 90% you are, which is a critical value for determining how much risk you are of having an airway problem. And then obviously we're going to give you the baseline and the minimum SaO2. But most importantly, at the bottom of this report, your dentist can say, please give me some advice on this data to us, DDME, and we'll put some recommendations at the bottom of the report. So this ODI that's 12.6, that is a significant number. So on the recommendations that we would give, we would say this patient is at risk of having a significant airway issue, code for OSA, which may be contributing to bruxism and damaged teeth. The teeth should be protected, taking into account the function of the airway. Okay? So that's the GEM report. Pretty straightforward. This is gold to dentists. Okay, so that's the GEM. Let's talk about the GEMPro. So the GEMPro, we're as the name implies, we're just going to add some more information to the GEM. So everything that I said about the GEM applies to the GEMPro. Plus, we're going to have there's a microphone on our amp, so there's an amplifier there. So that beige item here. So this guy here. This is the DDME amplifier, and on that amp we have a snore microphone or an audio microphone. It has body position and it has bruxism. Okay, and then it adds those three sets of data to the heart rate and SaO2 or oxygen. Okay, and the reason that we want to talk about those three items, snoring, body position, and bruxism, is because those are the main issues that dentists deal with, snoring and bruxism. People talk about snoring, especially if you bring it up. Geez, I have from a dentist perspective, the dentist would say, hey, listen, I got a new program. I'm helping people with snoring. Do you or someone in your family snore? If they do, I can help them out. Okay, so this is an ideal product for a dentist to be able to introduce to their practice for that reason. Snoring is an easily identifiable problem. Okay, we put body position in there because the airway functioning is highly associated to what position you sleep in. Okay, so some people snore on their back and they don't snore when they sleep on their side. Or some people might snore on their side and have sleep apnea on their back. Okay, so we can tell what position you're in throughout the whole night with our device. And then finally, there's the bruxism. And what we do with the bruxism, I'll show you in a second how that works, is it measures the amount of clenching and grinding. that goes on. And then we add those three again to the oximeter. Okay, and so this is how the GEMPro works. It works exactly the same way. Our little app that has those three channels I talked about: body position, audio, and bruxism, has a Bluetooth antenna, and it transmits to the same tablet that we're transmitting to the oximeter. So if you're a sales guy, you're probably, hopefully thinking, okay, this is modular then. I can start off very simply with an oximeter and then follow up with my dentist a month later and say, do you like it? Yeah. How about adding an amp to your program and give you, that critical information that you're not getting right now? Okay. So it's a very easy upgrade. So it is modular, and it functions the same exact way, and everything will stay the same. They're only adding, they have to clip that little amp to their shirt. That's the only thing we're adding, and we're getting all that extra info. So the process is exactly the same. It goes to the tablet, you get a report in the morning, the raw data gets uploaded to the cloud, and then if the dentist wants to look at the detailed information, they can. We also get a copy, and again, just like the GEM, we can provide some recommendations on the data. Okay, so here's a detailed report on the, or the graphs on the GEMPro. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of information there that is meant to give the dentist the tools they need to treat their patients. Okay, and again, if the dentist would like to have recommendations added to this for a small fee, we do that. And here's the detailed breakout of the full report. And when I say full report, it has the oximetry data and the bruxism data. So I want to spend just a second talking about this information, okay? So ODI, oxygen desaturation, and that's how many of those per hour, and so the I is index, so it's oxygen desaturation index. OVI is oxygen variability index, and that's essentially 2% desaturations. And heart rate, we provide the minimum, the maximum, and the average. Okay, so that's what we get from the oxygen, from the oximeter. Now, for the dentist perspective, we get the clenching and grinding. We're going to talk about bruxism. We have what we call BEI, which is bruxism episodes, which is a bruxism episode is a clench or a grind. Then there's other types of events that we score, which is BBI, bruxism burst index. And what we're doing there is we're just measuring the amount of total energy expended by the masseter while the patient sleeps. Okay, so if your total energy is 5,000 without treatment and it goes down to 300 with treatment, you did a good job. It's that simple. If your BEI goes from 6.3 to 1.3, you're done. And see, what's nice is if you remember what I talked about earlier, dentists had no way of measuring this. So they had no way of understanding when they did something, they had no idea what the impact of what they did. Now they do understand what they're doing. So for example, if they did a test and the patient had a perfectly functioning airway, so they went ahead and put in a bruxism guard, and they did another test, the airway stayed functional, and the bruxism episode, the BEI and the BBI both improved, that dentist knows without question that he's done. Okay? If, on the other hand, things got worse, then the dentist would know that right away, and the dentist would know to do something different. Okay? So that's where the value is on the dentist, because what they would do is they would give them a guard, replace a crown, or do a bridge, and then hope that things got better. And they would find out if they didn't, because the bridge would be in a baggie, and the patient would hand the baggie to the dentist and say, what am I supposed to do with this? That's how the dentist kind of measured how his treatment went. Now we have a tool that says, okay, wait a minute here, things got worse, I got to do something else. Okay. All right. So right now,
Hey, Jeff?
yeah.
Could you go back to that slide?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you spend just a little bit of time talking about the cow and what the 74 and 63 and 82 down below mean.
Okay.
The mean waking bite.
Yeah, I think I glossed over this. In fact, it's good that we're going to talk about this, because when you talk about the forces of bruxism, and I talked about, what the impact of those forces are, dentists have always wanted to know, okay, well, what's the pounds per square inch that the masseter exerts? And if you put something in between the teeth and try to measure that, it changes the way you bite down, and it's an erroneous value. So what we did is we came up with a way to measure those forces without affecting the forces, okay? So how we did that is, when you're awake before you go to bed, and this is, this is part of the product, and it's in the tablet software, is we have you bite down as hard as you can 5 times. And we measure the strength of those based on the EMG, or the cheek muscle exertion. So the stronger you bite down, the higher the amplitude, and we measure the amplitude of the cheek muscle when you bite down. And what we do is we do 5 of those clenches. Bite, relax, bite, relax, bite, relax. And then we average the value, and that's mean waking bite force. Okay? On this particular test, the mean waking bite force was 74, okay? And that's 74 microvolts, and then we convert that to a unit that we can now have a unit of measure that gets measured against what the patient does when they go to sleep, okay? So then what we do is we say the total energy is, your bruxism unit is 65, and then we measure what you do throughout the night. And if you recall, when I mentioned earlier, a lot of patients that have bruxism, that 65 EU will be 180, okay? And they couldn't dream of doing 180 when they're awake, but when you're asleep, again, you're asleep. You don't sense things, and that muscle placed on that masseter muscle, where it is on the jawbone, and the leverage that it can exert against your teeth, it's an enormously strong pressure. Okay, and this is where the damage comes. So we have a mean waking bite force. We create a value that we measure against what you do when you sleep, and then we have this measure and report that tells you, okay, when you sleep, your forces are, and then the dentist does something, and then we do the same test, and we can see that the forces improved and got less. Okay, so that's what that's about. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you guys the product. All right, so this whole time I've actually been doing a test. So here's the oximeter, and here's that masseter muscle, and here's the amp on my shirt. Here's a tablet that we have that comes with the system, and here's, it's a little bit reflective, but here's the tablet, and this is what's being recorded during the night. In the morning, the patient just clicks the done button, and it does the processing, and the preliminary report that I showed you a second ago, it's displayed on the tablet, and then we initiate the upload at that point in time for the patient, or the patient can return the tablet and the dentist uploads the data, whatever they want to do. The system comes in this box. It's a case, and in the case you open it up, and there's the product in there. There's the amp, the oximeter, and the cables, and then built into the case is the tablet. And this is what you're going to be selling to your customers. Okay, so that's the product, and the idea there is that when you deliver a product to a customer, you're gonna say, here's the product, call Shannon, and Shannon's gonna get you set up and get you going. Okay, so before we move on, is there any questions? Okay. So let's talk about sales tools. This is going to be a quick section. This is not a big deal. We went over this last time on our previous webinar, so I am going to speed things up a little bit. we have probably the most important sales tool, and you know, if you've sold for any amount of time, you have to know how your customer is going to make money. You just have to be prepared to answer that, and then that's no different in this case. So here's how your dentists are going to make money. To do oximetry, there's a code for oximetry, and there's also a code for bruxism. So since we measure both, you can build two different codes for the tests that we do, and on average, the dentist can get about $65 per test, and the supplies for the test, which is that little foam pad that you saw on my cheek, the supplies on that were about 50 cents. Okay? So the only other cost would be if the dentist says, geez, can you give me some recommendations based on this data? There's an additional fee for that. But you know, that's totally optional, and dentist doesn't ever have to do that. It's a completely optional item. So return on investment is about $65 per test. So depending on how many tests they do, it's a fairly favorable return on investment just on that part. But there's other elements to the benefits of it as well, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Here's a marketing piece. Shannon and I, Shannon, by the way, is the operations manager. She's the person that's responsible for taking care of our customers. So when there's a sale that occurs, just like any sales program, there's a handoff. And the handoff is going to be you've successfully collected a credit card number or a check, and you're going to place an order, and we're going to talk about that next. Courtney's actually going to talk about that. And the handoff is going to be to Courtney and Shannon. Okay? I'll be involved, obviously, at all aspects. I'll be helping you, supporting the sales efforts, and then any time that Shannon and Courtney might need my help, I'll be involved there too. But the handoff, just know that we have two extraordinarily capable people that have a lot of experience managing this type of sales activity and customer. Shannon, I bet, knows 200 dentists on the first name basis from being able to support them, and Courtney has has a skill that I probably hold as high as any skill, and that is her attention to detail and thoroughness. And I think, you know, anybody that's been successful has to have somebody like that in their organization, and Courtney's our person like that. So I did want to mention that. There's a threefold here. So let me go back to this literature piece. The point of this is if you have 2 to 3 minutes with a dentist, you should be able to do a demo from this literature piece. Okay? The three.
How big is that?
It's 8.5 by 11, two-sided.
Okay.
Okay. And you know, one of the things I wanted to mention, you know, and I know that Jim and I have had a couple conversations about sales processes and sales efforts. When you guys are in on the ground floor of something big, and I don't want to, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything that you'll ever need from here on out. And if based on your previous experience or your experience talking to dentists about this product, you learn how things can go better, my expectation is you're willing to share that with me. And one, I might have to be involved in making it better depending on what it is. And two, we can share that experience with other sales reps, okay? So if in the course of using this literature, you say, oh, geez, it would be nice if you added this, or if another type of literature or what have you, my expectation is you'll be willing to share that with me. Okay, so the threefold, the point of this is to pique interest and get them to call you. Okay, so it's a little more basic, a little more vague, and it's supposed to be more intriguing than explanation. Okay. Objection handling. This is pretty straightforward. I think that what I'll do here is everyone's going to hopefully has a copy of this presentation. If you don't, let me know and I'll get it to you. It's pretty straightforward. If you're talking to somebody, they'll say, oh, I don't treat sleep apnea. Okay. You know, if they say that, say, we're not talking about treating sleep apnea. We're talking about managing your patients with bruxism. And you may not ever want to touch a sleep apnea patient, but wouldn't it be nice to know that you're dealing with an apneic and you don't waste years of your time trying to help a patient that you can't help. And you can target and do a better job on the patients you can help and know and identify those patients that you can help. On the other hand, they may say, geez, I would like to help patients with apnea. We love to hear that. We have products for that person. We have services for that dentist. And that's something that you may or may not want to get into. If you want to sell sleep diagnostic equipment to a dentist, call me and I will get you going on that. That's kind of outside the scope of today's meeting, but know that if they say, instead of saying, no, I don't treat sleep apnea, they say, geez, do you have anything for sleep apnea? I say, I sure do. And then I will train you how to finish that sentence, okay? Okay. A lot of dentists have a lot of pride, and they're going to say, I already do a good job with bruxism patients. In that scenario, I say, I know you do, doctor. That's not, what I'm saying is expanding the number of patients that you can help and help you identify those tricky patients before you learn the hard way that they're tricky. That's all we're doing here. Okay, another objection will say, okay, well, wait a minute here. What if I learn that my patient has severe sleep apnea? So they have these DSATs that are very deep, and there's a lot of them. And when I say DSATs, the oxygen level drops severely. Say, it's great that you've identified that patient. Let's get them to a sleep lab. And you've done your patient a tremendous favor by identifying this issue early. You may have even put years on their life. They may already have an oximeter. Then you spend some time talking about the bruxism lead, the body position, and the snoring. You say, okay, does your oximeter detect snoring? No, they're going to say no. So how'd you like to know if your patient snores and how much, and is it related to body position? Okay. So those are, here's some detail, some documentation of what we just talked about. They might bring up reimbursement. Just go over the codes. I already gave you the 2 codes on this slide here. Oops, on this slide here, S390. Oops. Wow, I wonder what happened there. Let me get back to where I was. There we go. S390 and this code here. And there's actually other codes, and if you want to learn quite more about that, you can. All right, so let's talk about, we're getting close, guys. Hang in there. What I wanted to do at this point is I wanted to kind of hand the meeting over to Courtney, and Courtney's going to go through how you place an order. So you've talked to a dentist, they said, yeah, this sounds intriguing, give me one, let's get started. And Courtney's going to kind of go over the process of placing an order and what she does, and then what you can expect from us once an order has been replaced. And then Courtney, I'm going to hand it over to you, and just let me know when you want me to switch to the next slide. So on the first slide here, I have the order form for the GEM.
Okay, great.
Jeff?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Before this happens, can a dentist refer a patient to a sleep clinic?
Absolutely, and we encourage it. And we'll even help them develop that relationship with the sleep lab that may yield the dentist benefits. So it's something we definitely like to talk about. And
okay.
So the answer to your question is a resounding yes.
Okay.
Okay, Courtney.
Okay, could we go back to the previous slide, please, Jeff? Thank you. So once you have a dentist ready to purchase a GEM or a GEMPro, it is a very simple process to order it for them. We will ask them to fill out a form called the New Account Data Form, and that will include their practice name, primary contact, who will contact in the office if it isn't the dentist, information that Shannon and I will need once we are putting together their trainings, sending out their information, making sure we have the correct billing address, and we also like to keep a credit card number on file for orders in the future if they need supplies, if there's anything else that they need from our company. So we will ask that you have them fill out this new account form, and we will also ask you to fill out an order form. The order form is actually on the second page there, it looks like. And you will have some color printouts sent to you. You will take this into the dentist's office, and we can't really see at the bottom, but it lists the systems. It lists the GEM system without the tablet. It lists the GEM system, thank you, with the tablet, and the prices. There's not a lot of description here because this really is a form that you will be filling out and not the dentist. So you make your selections. In addition to the GEM or the GEMPro product, we sell network licenses, insurance, and the insurance is different between the GEM and the GEMPro. So you can also earn a commission on the services as well as the product. We like to sell the services by the year. It reduces the transactions that we need to have with the dentist to get the payment information. And once this is all added up, you would take those two forms and fax them in to Jeff's. Jeff will give us all the number, and that'll come in. Shannon and I will both be able to see it. I will put it onto our accounting system, and then Shannon is responsible for order fulfillment. As far as payment, we can take payment by credit card in person, credit card, getting the details from them and having me process it, or check. So once you all start going and taking orders, I will get in contact with you and actually send you out a card reader that just attaches to your phone. When we take their credit card orders, we would rather have them use their card in person against the card reader because we're open to less fraud and less transaction fees that way. Once all of your orders are in and we receive payment, then Shannon will work on getting the order out to the customer, and I will work on calculating your commissions.
Can I ask a couple questions now?
Sure.
Okay. On that page that's showing right now, you got GEMPro and tablet, GEMPro no tablet, and the same with GEM Lite, I guess it is, or LT. It appears to me that there's going to have to be somebody loading the software onto that tablet. Are we going to charge for that?
Yeah, so that is the fee that is included in those numbers. We assume that we will be setting up the software on the tablet.
Okay, so in the price of the GEMPro or GEM Lite with no tablet, that already includes the software programming costs.
It does include the software programming. Jeff, do you want to speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, it sure does. So, yeah, the tablet, when we ship product, here the process will be, you saw the case, the tablet that's embedded in the lid of the case. We will have installed the application that I showed you, that kind of on the tablet. And it also actually, what I didn't show you, it includes a tech support login application. So both those get installed here on every tablet before they leave. Okay, so we know the system's completely functional on every system before they ship.
Okay, then the next question is, are you shipping the devices and all the supplies directly to the dentist?
Yeah, unless otherwise instructed, yes.
Okay, because the reason I've had experiences where they've sent them to the reps, and all of a sudden they got into I never got everything, and we couldn't prove that everything was sent to them.
Yeah,
so I would much rather
that
to the contact. Then you would know it was delivered.
Yeah, I don't know why we would want to burn your time making you hand deliver something. I mean, you might, if you said, oh, geez, there's a customer I want to develop a relationship to and I'd like to hand deliver it, we have a good relationship, I could see that, but otherwise our intention is to mail it to the dentist.
It can go either way.
Would the default be shipped directly to the dentist, and
Yes.
the exception would be I want to deliver it?
Yeah, and I would say that we would use that sparingly. I mean, one, it's you have to think about your time, and then two, it introduces the risk that you just talked about.
Oh yeah, and the other thing too is not only my time to deliver it, my time to travel to deliver it, because that could get sizable.
Yes, exactly, and I would rather have you working on another sale and let us do that.
And then the last thing is, if they're not going to buy the tablet, do we give them a requirement sheet that says this is what you need to have?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We initially said 1,400 unless you need a tablet, and it's 1,600 if you need a tablet. And that was kind of a pricing strategy to come in at $1,400, and then you would say, do you have a tablet, or would you like us to throw in a tablet for a couple hundred? I would strongly recommend that you just sell every system with a tablet. And if somebody's, and we've talked to 10 or 12 dentists, and they've all said, yeah, I would just order a tablet from you. But if you want to come in, if you think it will help you to come in at $1,400 and then say, listen, you need a tablet. If you don't have this exact specific tablet, and to your question, yes, there's a very specific tablet you need, and we'll give you that specification. If you have this exact tablet, then you can get the unit for $1,400, and then we'll have to make sure that you configure it, and then there'll be a line item to get that system configured. Okay, so they're really not going to save much on using their own tablet, because they'll save the price of the tablet, but they're going to incur a $25 fee for us to set it up.
Okay, so then basically what you said is the GEMPro with no tablet is $1,400 plus 25.
Yes.
Okay.
We do strongly recommend, I'm sorry, I was going to add, we strongly recommend you sell the product with a tablet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, you need to raise red flags that, we can't guarantee that the tablet you own or buy will work. We know ours will, because we're on the line for it, right?
Yep.
And do you also provide a list of consumables they should have based on their volumes?
There's only one consumable, and it's the foam pad that goes on the cheek. And the system comes with 50.
Okay.
Or yeah, 40 or 50. I'm sorry. I think it's 50. Shannon, is it 50 in a bag of EMG pads?
It's 50.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on the financials?
I just like your calculating commissions.
All right.
Well, do you want me to move on to the next slide then?
Sure.
We're going to skip the soft seal for now. Two sentences on this slide. Again, if you guys want to get into selling a full home sleep system, send me an email and we'll set up a webinar, and I'll go through that with you at that time. It's a $5,800 product. It's 10% commission. It's a lot more effort in selling. Okay. We're going to, this is, just hang tight for just a second, Courtney. We're going to talk about the BRX Pro real quick. This is an oral appliance that it improves the functioning of the airway and reduces the clenching and grinding while protecting the teeth. Okay, and it's immediate Okay, you make it chair side, and then in the dental space, when you say it's made chair side, that means you make it right on the spot. You open up the package, you put some material in there, you have the patient bite into it, you adjust it, and you're done. It takes 10 minutes. It's less than $90. The dentist can charge $250, $300 for it, and it's a commission product, and it's a consumable. Okay, it's short term, and when I say short term, a couple of weeks to a couple of months at the most. Here's some pictures of the unit being made. Again, we sell this for $89 a unit, and we'll talk about the commissions. It works. It works on improving the functioning of the airway. So think about the airway function improves, and if the airway is triggering bruxism, and you reduce the number of triggers, you reduce the number of bruxing. Okay, and we see that in these charts. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about I'm going to hand this back over to Courtney on the comp plan.
Okay. With the initial sale of a gem, you can earn $140. The GEMPro goes for $400, and you can earn higher commissions if you have met your soft seal quota for the month. The quota is $500, and we can look at the order form for the masks in just a little bit. You can increase your commission for each sale by $50 if you do sell your minimum on the masks. You can also earn money on selling service subscriptions, insurance, and BRX Pros. So we will give you, what do we decide, Jeff? The compensation, $20 if you sign up for a year, and no compensation if you sign up a customer for monthly service?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, on this, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. On that structure, if the guy doesn't want to, I find this on software all the time, is they'll buy in for the first month to prove it works, then they'll upgrade. So do you have anything that's got an upgrade hook into it also?
Yeah, so I think what you're asking, let's say that so there's two parts to what you're asking. One is, let's say they buy a gem and you get commissioned $140. You do a follow-up call a month or two later, they really like the gem, and now they want to advance to a GEMPro, or they want to upgrade to a GEMPro. Yeah, well, the comp on the upgrade isn't listed here. You deserve one and you would earn that in that scenario. We just don't know what the amount is, okay? The other upgrade would be that they said, I don't want to do membership, or I'll do it on a month-to-month, which you kind of get left out on a month-to-month service or insurance. And when you follow up with them that things are going well, and you say, hey, listen, would you like to just get a free month of service and insurance if you can pay for a year of service and insurance? And they say, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Then, yeah, that kind of upgrade, if you will, would trigger a $20 commission for you. Does that answer your question?
Well, I guess I read those 2 points wrong. What does the membership service subscription cost the doctor?
It depends on the product. So if they have the gem, it's $19 a month, I think it was. Let me go back. It's $180 for the year.
Okay.
All right. And then, okay. Yeah.
And it's $228 on the GEMPro.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, it sounds like there would be significant savings to go for a full year than versus month to month.
Right, and what we like to do is we will give them a 13th month free if they sign up for the year of service, because as I mentioned, it's just less time for the transaction process for us to do once versus 12 times.
Have you had any situations where they're buying multiple units? They've got 4 or 5 dentists, or
yeah. First of all, we're not selling yet, but we've done some test marketing, and about a third said they would take 2 units.
okay.
So and then if I've talked.
Got the issue, you've got to get the return, get it basically. Well, I guess the cheek thing is the only thing that needs to be sterile, so that's okay.
Yeah, the cheek is a disposable, but what most people that are using this actively is they'll essentially put it out on almost every single patient. So if you see 10 patients a day, 2 of them you haven't seen in a while, you would send them home. So they're busy enough that, and it's so inexpensive, it's 50 cents a test and supplies, that they're doing a lot of testing. So they'll just order 2 because it's an overnight. It might be a day and a half before they get it back, and so on and so forth.
That's interesting. Okay.
And the other. Oh, go ahead.
When we first introduced the product, we sort of equated this to the dental X-ray. That dental X-ray is a preventative method of determining whether there's structural issues with a tooth, and we tried to equate these systems as equivalent to a dental X-ray for tooth destruction. It's and in talking to dentists, if we can convince them that you really need to know not only a dental X-ray, but you need to know the environment that the tooth is in, on a periodic basis. That's how you sort of work this product into the standard flow in a dental office.
I'm just thinking if the dentist owned 2 units, then he has 2 patients in the morning. He can't do anything with the other patients in the evening or the late afternoon because he doesn't have an appliance or a device to send home with him.
Yeah, and it's.
Your analogy with the X-ray is that's all done in the dentist's office while the guy's sitting there,
Yeah, so I think what you're getting to is, what may end up coming to, what we figure out is if a dentist has, let's say, 6 operatories, 6 offices that they see patients in, where, as we release, we're going to learn, okay, those folks order 3 GEMs or GEMPros. If they have 2 operatories, they might need 1. So we'll as we gain experience in the marketplace, we'll get a sense, and then we'll definitely communicate with you when you go into an office, find out how many operatories they have, and then you can share, say, listen, other dentists that have the same number of operatories as you do ordered 3 units or what have you.
The payback on this system is very, very quick. If you look at the GEMPro with dental insurance, they get a reimbursement through dental insurance, not even adding if they charge the patient a little bit. You get $65 a patient. So, in patients, 20 or 25 patients, you paid for the system. That's without charging the patient for it. And I know Jeff touched on it, but the fact that the patient themselves get a report at the end of the night, the tablet flips up that report. So part of the selling that the dentist has to do is to the patient, and when the patient sees his own report in the morning, and if he has problems, those graphs turn to red, and that's a perfect way of selling a patient on the fact that they need to do something else, including a guard, and now the dentist is getting several $100s of reimbursement because he used this device, and the patient got educated as to what his problem was. He was much easier to be sold to go to the next step, which now the dentist is into the hundreds of dollars per patient.
Yeah, that is a big.
What about?
Go ahead.
This is going to sound like a strange question, but what about DOs and MDs?
They're going to use a home screener.
Right. An MD is going to want to diagnose sleep apnea. This this product will not diagnose sleep apnea. The product that's now on the screen will diagnose sleep apnea, but that's the $5,800 solution. What we're doing with this screener is if a patient you know that they had the only reason for them to DSAT, the only a large probability reason for a patient to DSAT at night is if their oxygen saturation. If their oxygen saturation is a DSAT, then the only reason for that would be that they have sleep apnea. But you can't diagnose sleep apnea just off of a pulse oximeter. You have to measure airflow and patient effort, which this device on the screen does. So we're not diagnosing sleep apnea, but the dentist will know that the patient has sleep apnea if the oxygen feed saturations are there. But from an insurance point of view, nobody could bill insurance for the diagnosis of sleep apnea without using the device that's on the screen now. So we tell them the information, but it's not enough information for an insurance company to a medical insurance company to diagnose it. So for the dentist, what we're giving him is the information to know that the patient has sleep apnea, but he can't diagnose it, but he can treat them correctly by resolving the sleep apnea while treating bruxism. And now he's totally in the dental domain and not in the medical domain.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
The other thing that just real quick I'll add is on the BRX Pros, the transitional appliance that improves the airway and bruxism. That's $6 per unit, and that's residual income. So if they like it and they're like we had a dentist call the other day and want to order a box of 10 units. So that's a residual commission for you. Just one more thing, I guess, I'll kind of finish off on the comp plan with Courtney, is in the presentation, there's a chart here that goes through what the comp plan is. I want to make sure that everybody understands the GEMPro with the tablet. There's a $400 commission. There's the GEM, it's a $140 commission, and then that's the commission structure for that product. If we have more time, we'll talk about the soft seal mask. If you're going to participate in selling the soft seal mask, and I'm going to kind of hand it over to Doug here in a second, and you sell $500 worth of masks a month, which is a fairly modest quota, then you get a $50 kicker per unit of the GEMPro and the GEM. So you could now if you're in your comp plan kicker for the quota being met, now you're getting $450 per unit and $190 for the GEM. $450 for the GEMPro and $190. So you can see how we're wanting to incentivize you. So on the point of the soft seal mask, Doug, are you there on the call still?
I'm here.
Okay, so why don't you just kind of spend a moment or two talking about the soft seal mask, and then just tell me to advance the slide when you're ready.
Sounds good. You can go to the next slide, Jeff.
Okay.
We have been doing real good with the mask. Starting to get into some ACE, some true values and do-it centers. Them are good ones to go after because they're usually, there's an owner, so they can buy outside of their distribution. So I've been having really good luck, and the stores that we do have set up, most of them are doing at least $500 after the initial big purchase to stock a month. And
go ahead and go to the next slide, Jeff.
Okay.
But that was a few stores that we had set up, and a couple of the stores have actually been having customers call to make sure that they had product in stock, so it's really taken off. When I was first into the stores, some of them took a small, start off with like extra large N95s, and they sold pretty good at first, but after we got them stocked with all the different sizes, that's when it really took off, because I think people were probably buying the extra large and they weren't quite sealing. And then after we had the large and the medium, it's been really good. We can help out, if you do have a store that wants to come on board, we can help out with a mannequin. I've been setting them up. The customers have been handling them, and you can actually see how well the mask fits on the mannequin, and that's been a pretty good deal. We're looking into getting a little video screen, and if somebody does do an end cap with a nice display, we can set them up with a looping video that shows our video, which is real good, why our mask is superior to the competition. I'm getting real close to some regional distribution agreements. One of the stores could turn into a national contract, and they have like 8,000 stores. If anybody does want to go after national distribution agreement, you just want to communicate with myself or Bill, and we can help you and make sure that is an avenue that we can go, because a few of the places that we're already getting into, we've already had a couple conflicts of interest, so we sort of got to look and see which way is the best avenue to go with soft seal in them type of situations. You can go to the next.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha.
The pricing structure, we tried to make it pretty simple. If you sell on a wholesale level, that's going to be to the store, it's going to be 15%. If we go to the end user, say the body shops or even your like maybe some government agencies on a local level, well, you could do 25%. And as long as we're close to the numbers that are listed there, we have all the product list and the part numbers beside it in different sizes. Each person that's going to sell is probably going to have a different situation. So the two opportunities will be, we could send a sample box, and the box is going to be about 18 inches by 20 inches by 12 inches tall, and we can have sample products in there, so you can go out, show people, and then if you attain orders, then we can ship you the product to fulfill those orders. We can also send 3 boxes of product, and that would help you fulfill the smaller orders, instantly. That footprint would be 18 by 20 and 36 inches tall. I know that everybody doesn't have, might not have ample room to hold a lot of product, so I think that we can communicate outside the call and sort of structure something to fit you guys' needs or what. And if you guys have any questions, you can give me a shot.
Okay. Is that everything, Doug?
Yeah, I think so. And what I'd like to do is make sure that I have everybody's contact information, and feel free to give me a call anytime, and we can just trade the information so we can communicate that way, and I'll be more than glad to answer any questions.
Okay.
We have a really good website for the soft seal. It's www.softsealmask.com if you haven't been there, and we have a video that if you have a customer and you show them that video, that video pretty well demonstrates what the issues with existing masks in the marketplace and why our mask is superior because of the seal to the face. So by all means, if you're selling the mask, if you sort of poke around in that website, not only will you see all the sales tools you need to have, but you'll also see a variety of technical articles, et cetera, that describe how masks are tested, why this mask is better. So I'm going to talk briefly about, to me this is an experiment. We have about 5 or 6 people we've identified through Rep Hunter that we are going forward with to have sell our product. I've never done this. I'm meeting you guys for the first time through the Rep Hunter organization, and we'll see. You guys are the guinea pigs. So we're really highlighting the GEM product and the soft seal mask, but we have some other products that, in the case of the one that's on the screen now, it is available to sell. It's called the high oxygen mask. It's very good. If somebody has a microphone on, if you can mute it, there's some background noise. The high ox mask has a valving mechanism that allows anybody that is on oxygen, it fills up a reservoir bag, and it has a series of valves, and when the mask detects the onset of an inspiration, the patient gets 100% oxygen at the first part of the breath. All other oxygen masks entrain room air at the onset of an inspiration. In our mask, they get a full bolus of oxygen at the beginning, and the benefit to that is when you have the high concentration of oxygen be in the first part of the breath, that's what hits the lung. And consequently, you can have a much higher FiO2 on the oxygen mask compared to any other mask out there. And the applications for this in the hospital is if you have a patient that is compromised and on the verge of being intubated with a ventilator, using this mask might be able to keep them from being intubated. And in the case of home care, you always have a problem with patients with emphysema or COPD. Those patients are, especially when they're in the sort of the critical side, they're always right on the edge of going to the emergency room because of lack of oxygen ability from either an oxygen tank or an oxygen concentrator. And this mask would give those patients an ability to have a higher concentration of oxygen delivered and potentially avoid going to the emergency room. So anybody that's interested in selling this product, please contact me and we'll get you set up. The commission rate on this product is the mask retails for about $10, and there's a 25% commission on the mask. And if you want to learn more about it, go to the website that's on the bottom, and there's a good technical explanation of exactly how the mask works. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is another product that we will be bringing into the distribution network. It's not quite ready to be released, but this is a telemedicine product, and it is a tablet but it's a dedicated tablet, and it serves as a picture frame. You can say it's an email place for people that are not technically oriented to a computer. It has very simple email and Skype capability, but it also connects to a whole variety of medical instruments, and physicians can monitor patients in remote locations by using this device. It's a telemedicine device. I won't go over the details, but there's quite a bit of information about it on the website that is below. And at this point, I'm not releasing, I'm not going to have anybody else sell the product for a while, but my intention is to bring this product into this sales organization. So you can look at it. The high oxygen mask can be sold if you so desire. And beyond that, we have a couple other product lines that we are in the process of getting FDA approved, and I believe those will be added too. So my bottom line is, if you're successful and we build a relationship with the GEM product line and the soft seal mask, I think we as a group have a very interesting set of products that we can add to the distribution capability and to the network. Any questions?
Yeah. What was the name of the presenter? If we want to call him, what's his name?
I'm Bill Ross.
Oh. You're the mask man out there. Okay.
I'm a little bit of all of it. Yeah. If you, by all means, I think I believe I've talked to everybody. So yeah, if you have questions, feel free to give me a call. If it's on the GEM product line, Jeff is the guy to talk to. If it's on the soft seal product line, Doug's the person to talk to. And if it's a general, I want to learn more about what all you guys are doing, I'm maybe the guy to talk to.
What about the air mask? The oxygen mask?
The oxygen mask, if you want, that's me. If you want to sell that, talk to me, and I'll get you sort of educated on it. That mask is FDA approved, ready to go. Got lots of inventory. I can work with Courtney to get an order form together, and away you go, and we can get you samples. It does what it's advertised to be, and it's quite unique, patented and quite unique. The problem is it's a $10 mask, and you'll run into people that say, well, I spend only $2 or $3 for my oxygen mask, but every home care company should have one of those masks, or some of those masks, because every home care company either has patients that are on the verge of going to the ER, or they have patients where their oxygen tanks are getting depleted so fast. This does slow down. If a patient wears this, you can turn the flow rate down on an oxygen tank and conserve oxygen, because this delivers a higher bolus of oxygen than any other of the other ends.
Okay, good.
But if you're interested, you can get to me.
Yeah, we can talk offline.
Okay. That was all I had.
All right. So one thing that we're getting close to our time, we actually might end a minute or two early. I did want you guys to you got a chance to meet Courtney, and Courtney again is kind of the accountant / controller of the company, and you definitely want to be nice to Courtney because she's going to be calculating your commissions. But the other
sort of like,
what's that?
She's sort of like radar.
Exactly. But the other person that I want you to kind of meet, because Shannon, who I'm going to have you talk in a sec, Shannon's actually going to be the person that deals with your customer. So she's, you know, quote unquote, going to be the face of the company once you hand off. And, you know, like any good sales rep, you want to maintain a good positive relationship with your customers. Shannon is going to do that for you. So what I wanted to do is have Shannon talk to you for just a moment about what she does with the current products that we sell and what her role is. So Shannon, if you wanted to take a moment to do that.
Sure. I am one of the main training individuals and customer service people. So I usually speak directly with the dentist and a lot of times with the front office ladies. I can give you some advice for the dentist and the front office people. Always keep everything really, really simple. When you keep things simple, they comprehend more and they like you more. What I found is they love to learn, and they do, just the office staff in general along with the dentist. With all my training sessions, I get a lot of phone calls. I have to repeat a lot, and they kind of want me to do everything for them, and I do have to remind them that I only can do so much, and I can help guide them in the direction that they need. But I generally train on the T3 device, which I'll be doing with the GEM as well, the GEM products. And also I help keep them educated on just basically everything with what we do. If you guys have questions as well regarding training or questions on the products, definitely can help you out. Especially if you need help with certain dentists that you deal with and questions you may get where you feel you're stumped. I open up my email and phone to give me a call, and I will definitely help you with that. They are very tricky individuals, the staff and the dentists, so I'm here to help you with questions and concerns I get from them on a daily basis. There are some offices that call me every single day that I try to help them as much as I can, and I definitely can help you out with their questions, concerns, and what they feel is right or wrong. Anything else that you want me to add or subtract?
No, thanks, Shannon. And so, you know, you guys have met the team. Doug, Soft Seal, Jeff, Jim, Shannon, customer support, training, Courtney, all things financial. Bill, he kind of, if no one else can help you, he can. So I think it's important that you know the team, so that's the team. The last thing that I wanted to cover is just make sure that while we're all on the phone and kind of in a group, is there any kind of open questions that anybody has before we end the meeting?
Is Courtney still on the line?
Looks like she muted her.
I am. I'm here.
Yep.
On the compensation plan for the GEM network license, it says $9 a month or $180 a year. Wouldn't that be $108?
I believe this is an old snippet that hasn't been updated. We were just kind of going through and getting an idea, so it's possible, yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. It should be at $9. It's 9 times 12, so it's 108.
If we sell it for 180, do we get more commission? Never mind. Never mind.
Yes.
We could tell them it's a hedge against inflation.
Yeah, tell them.
They get really good service.
Hey there.
Yeah, you know, on a serious note, Shannon is really good, guys. So, for those of you that have experience selling products that require service, for 6 years, when people think about DDME and what we bring to the table that's unique, the first thing is always that we're excellent at service. So that you can count on.
A question for Shannon. Would you be able to tell us when equipment is shipped so we can
Yes.
also just
yes.
say this is
I can provide, If you email me, I can provide you with the tracking number. So as soon, the day that it gets shipped out and processed, I can email you that tracking number so you can go on USPS and basically track it. If I do use another carrier, I will let you know. If the package needs to get there sooner than what I can offer, I will definitely keep you updated. Just shoot me an email and I'll send you that information.
Okay.
All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and